Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Nullify Tech channel on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you on the Challenge All-Stars Episode 5. That's right. I'm your host, Chris, and with me again today, someone who held the fort down with our friend Drew from the Angel Cake Entertainment channel. It's Kahuna. Kahuna, how's it going?
Doing well, man. Good morning, and good evening to everyone watching. Yeah, I'm glad you're back, Chris, to bring the nullified take back to the level where it's supposed to be, rather than I'm hoping you didn't watch last week's live and see some of the comments that it was a fun time. I appreciated everyone.
Yeah, I saw some of the comments and I was too afraid to watch, to be honest with you. After seeing the comments come in, I was like, it sounds like you guys had a lot of fun while I was not here. But, you know, we're back now.
It was all Drew. I'm blaming Drew.
Yeah. Drew's a bit of a loose cannon sometimes, you know, like I'm not surprised, but I expected more from you, Kuna. I thought you could hold the fort down.
Yeah. It's my bad.
Now, listen, for those who are not aware, obviously last week I went over to Sydney, did the Spartan race, ended up having a lot of fun there. You know, first time in, I don't know, it was about 4.5 years that I competed in it because obviously COVID reasons, injuries and things like that. Went extremely well, better than what I expected. And then afterwards, I ended up catching up with you, Kuna. We actually met in person for the very first time, my good man.
That was good. We spent so many hours talking over an internet connection to actually do it in person and have a chat. It was like when we podcast, even though we just met each other for the first time in person, we just started talking for like ages. It was really good to meet you, actually. And I was surprised. Like, Drew was right. I think Chris is about 6'10" to 7 foot, somewhere there. A very intimidating presence to be in front of. Like, he's a big dude. You don't see it on the camera angle he's got. I don't know what it is, but yeah.
Danika's asking, where's the picture? We will put a picture up on the channel in the, I guess we can do it in the community tab. We'll put something on. So yeah, we did take a picture before I left, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. And please stop saying that. You're creating a threat level around me if I was ever to go play Australian Survivor, where people will now think I'm this big dude. I'm already gonna, shave off all my hair, shave my beard, go in looking completely different if I was to go play Survivor, so people can't recognize me from the Nullified Take. But anyways, let's say hello here to a few people in the live. We've got lovable Nikki and Chris back, like always. Hello, ladies. Hope both of you are doing extremely well. Darren is here as well as Thana. We've got Danica here as well. We've got DeAndre. I hope I'm pronouncing that right in the live as well. Welcome to the live. Erica is here as well as Lena. Who else do we have? Yeah, so quite a few people. Victoria, welcome to the live as well. So quite a few people. What a great ending to the previous episode. We had 2 heavyweights go head-to-head in a ninja star throwing competition at the end of an arena. Maybe they could have done something better, more, that would have been better for the fans to enjoy. Like maybe getting them to go into a headbanger head-to-head would have been more exciting to see, especially for 2 physical presences. Like both of them were like going into it. It felt like a little bit of a 50-50, but obviously, I was very happy because Cara Maria came out on the other end of that looking pretty, right? She managed to survive, took out one of the biggest names in the game, and she's coming back into the house this week. And there's a lot of people that have to answer to Cara Maria. Now, I didn't listen to the conversation between yourself and Drew about the whole Cam situation, the whole Brandon situation, but obviously that's going to be a continued theme here within this episode.
Yeah.
Where were you guys sitting on it, and did that change coming into this episode, seeing the fallout of everything that took place?
So last week, I kind of took the approach of like, it was a bit weird that Cam was coming so hard at her because it didn't matter what Cara did as far as the vote go. Like where Cara voted, it was already set. I think Cam just wanted to make sure she was on her side. This week, I'm funny about it because I guess it's the fallout or the reaction. How you react to things is where I kind of judge. Like the circumstances, yes, it sucks, but now you're like keeping it going and being upset and all that is going to make it worse for you in the long run. And we saw that sort of play out the way Cara had that chat with Cam, and kind of like Leora was like, look, you gotta chat with Cam, have a talk, like discuss it. And it ended up being worse. And then she got a very real talk from Brandon which I thought was interesting. The way he just sort of laid it out all on Front Street. Like, you keep
Yeah.
saying we're friends. I haven't talked to you in 8 years. Like, what's up? Like, I've been married, I've had kids, I've been divorced, my father died, I almost died multiple times. I'm like, holy crap, Brandon,
Yeah,
he's gone.
listen, I don't think there was. He went deep. He went deep. I don't think there was any winners or losers in this. I didn't feel like Cara Maria was looking any worse. Like I even last week, like and for me, obviously Cara's my girl. You know, I'm always going to stand for Cara Maria. But I understood from a game move perspective why it happened. I still think
Yeah.
Cara Maria kind of called Cam out this week though, because she said you're using that as an excuse to make a game move, which I think is true. Because her not voting, you know, with Cam on that vote when she said she was not going to vote, she was upfront about the fact that she wasn't going to vote for Rachel from the start. That is being used for Cam to have an excuse to make a game move against Cara Maria, which is okay. Just own it. Yes, Cara Maria, you're a physical presence in this game. I want to take you out. Just own it. And that's what Cara Maria said. I thought that was a pretty good point there. And this is no hate to Cam, like, because I applaud Cam for making a move. This is one of the things I don't understand from fans, because I heard some fans were going after Cam afterwards. And for me personally, like, you can't blame someone for coming into the game making a game move. We've been complaining for such a long time. Everybody played the friend game. Finally, we get someone coming in here like a Cam, who's a very strong player of this game, and she makes a game move, and fans are unhappy about that as well. So I don't get it. I feel like there's a lot of good that sort of came in the conversation from all angles, but Cara Maria calling her out saying, hey, just own it. It's a game move. And that is what it is. I thought that was a W, maybe more so for Cara Maria. Nothing bad to Cam, but she didn't want to say or admit that to Cara Maria. That's addressing the Cam situation. And then obviously Leroy, he tried to get out of that as best as he can, which I don't blame him, right? He's like, I'm just sitting on the side. I want to get into the crossfire, but he ended up getting that crossfire in any case because he's associated with Cam in the game. And I just wanted to also address the whole Brandon thing, because you bring up a valid point. Brandon, said, hey, I've had all this stuff happen in my life. I've been out of the game. I actually watched the Instagram live between him and Jimmy last week, which Reality Realness posted it on her YouTube page. So I went to go watch it on there. And he spoke about a lot of that stuff in there as well. I couldn't go into too much detail. He didn't have that high of a view of a lot of people who are playing this season because he's been out of the challenge realm for so long. And I get it. Like, those are real feelings and emotions. Maybe he felt a certain type of way, and he doesn't owe her anything. I think that's 100% fair. But I also know that in real life, in grown-up life, people have things going on. I don't think Cara Maria had any bad blood towards him or anything like that. She just had her own life happening at the same time.
Look, I put it down to colleagues, right? Like, there are people that I worked with a decade ago that I haven't seen or talked to or heard, but if I saw them in person, I'd be like, oh, like, I'm friends with them, but we're not friends in real life. But I'd be stoked to see them. I'd love to see them. I'd be friendly when I'm seeing them. And if I saw them in a challenge house, yeah, I'd be like, hey, like, we haven't seen each other in ages, and but we're not friends every day. Like, I get that relationship. So, and I understand where Brandon's coming from. Like, to be able to say, like, you're putting that above everything else, especially when he's got $250,000 on the line, and he's going to Wakanda to do work for his baby. Like, I get that. You know what I mean? Like, I really do love as well that the All Stars really leans into that these are adults with real lives, and they you wouldn't get that conversation in the flagship show. Like, even Leroy was talking about postpartum depression, and these are like very real people having a real life experience in this very unworldly, unreal sort of environment. And it's fascinating to see, and how those relationships play out, how much history there is versus, was it just a work thing? Are we really friends? There's so much complication and things that go into every single storyline, or not every single. Some people have been really gone, but there's some stuff that goes deep, and it's interesting seeing it all come to play,
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a complex game. You put grown-ups in there, like you said, that conversation with Leroy, I definitely want to dive into that a little bit as well. I just wanted to, while we're talking about Brandon and some of the things that have been going on, apparently, Brandon said that they don't talk outside of the game, but they always have each other's backs prior to the season starting. So maybe Cara Maria felt a certain type of loyalty due to that. Lena saying, but if past co-workers reached out to say hello via text, I would at least acknowledge the text. Cara never responded. I don't like, I don't know the story behind that. And Alina, you'll have to enlighten me where that sort of came out. Was that Brandon that said that? Like, it's very hard to know if that is a true thing, that happened. I don't know. And did she have the same phone number? Did she change her phone number? I mean, I just don't know. It's a lot of he said, she said. Overall, I get it from both sides. People move on. Everybody's grown ups. You've got your life, like you said, with coworkers. Some coworkers you talk to all the time, and then suddenly you don't work together, and slowly but surely you kind of drift apart a little bit. But regardless, let's talk about the game move. Was that a good game move for Brandon? Because he's gone the very next episode. The one person who wasn't going to go for him, he ended up alienating. And did he have enough allies in the game to be able to piss someone like Cara Maria off so early on in the game? And, you know, how does this sit with his legacy? Has he now improved his legacy in the game with this one move against Cara Maria? Was it big enough for him to come back? Like, let's analyze it now in hindsight, I guess. And we've got, 2020 vision here, which helps. But were you high on the move as a game move last episode, and now that you've seen how it's played out, how do you feel about it?
Look, I've said it multiple seasons in a row, even for the flagship and all that sort of thing. I get the big move, wanting to throw the big player in, but this is the format of the challenge where the consequences can come back to you. And I've always said, if you throw a bananas in early, if you throw a Jordan in early, then you risk that chance of him coming back and being angry, right? You risk Cara coming back, because even though it was Rachel, Cara is a beast. Like, for me, she's the female GOAT. So she's likely to come back even against Rachel, especially because Rachel hasn't been there for so long. I guess Cara hadn't either at this point, but, we're talking like 20 years versus 4.
Yes.
And so, like, game experience counts, and Kara's up there with the best. So it's always a risk, but I think maybe in this regard, like, if there was ever going to be a chance, Rachel being the one to throw in against her was probably a good option. But yeah, you're right. Like, we saw the outcome here, and he was saying it. Like, he knew, like, if I throw her in and she comes back, like, it's bad for me and stuff. And that's what happens. Like, does he regret taking the shot? I don't know, because he's not there anymore. But I do think him doing that put Brandon in storylines, and at least he got way more personality out by having that conversation about his life, about having the phone call home and all that sort of thing. Brandon, for me, was always like, he's really nice, but he's a nothing player. He never got far at all. I never respected him as a challenger, but more as a person. And I feel like he's grown in that regard in this season. He took a big shot. He had a lot of great moments on confessionals. He got a lot of personality out there, and we really got to know and like him a lot more. People didn't even know he had kids, and to have that little moment was like, oh, like, that was really great. And I think he went up in my regard overall for the sacrifice of his game. Like, he looked better for me. I like him more. He made a big play. I respect him more, but he's gone. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of I don't know which one's more important, but I do think he looked good in this season.
It's going to sound brutal. I don't feel like I've always enjoyed Brandon's heart. Like, whenever he came back to play the game, and he went into these eliminations, he played hard. He was never known to be a strategic mastermind, and that hasn't really changed for me either. With this season, I think he showed some shortcomings in the way that he maneuvered within the game. He probably could have gone a lot deeper, which would have meant he could have had more airtime, maybe take a star a little bit later on in the season. So I don't know if he's gone up, but I'm okay with Brandon. Like, I think Brandon belongs on All-Stars. Like, I'll see him in another All-Star season. I'd be happy with that if he comes back for another All-Star season at least. Do I want to see him on the main show?
wanted him back, that's for sure.
Yeah, but that's the other thing. TJ and him. So when the GMA Instagram Live was going on and I was watching it, which is so weird that I never watch a lot of online content, but I just so happened to have time. He spoke about his friendship with TJ, and they've been friends for years. So they actually communicate or have communicated a lot outside of the game. So, for instance, when Brandon never went back, TJ's helped him out in real life. Has gone and had breakfast with him at multiple times and stuff like that. So they've actually got like a real life friendship outside of the game. So when he said you're my guy or something at the end, that was like heartfelt, and I understood the meaning behind it, because they're actually real friends. And that's why, he said, I'd love to have you back. So it's interesting to know that Brandon has been so close to TJ for all these years, but has never had the callback to come back and play. I think it also shows how little influence TJ really has around casting, or, because he's a big fan of Cara Maria as well. Cara Maria's been out on the cold for quite a long time. And it's maybe because he doesn't insert himself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's maybe one of those people that feels like, I'm the host, I don't really want to get involved in casting or production. But, it's interesting that he's been close with some of these people that haven't necessarily come back and played the game more consistently. I do want to go back and read a couple more of the comments that have come in. Lena says that she heard that on the official podcast. Lena, thank you so much for clarifying. Danica says, sound like he could be set up for rivals with Cara, which is #solid. How would they do together? Like, I don't know if they're a balanced team. Like, is Brandon good at puzzles? Like, I don't think they would be a balanced team. That would be good for Brandon. It wouldn't be good for Cara. Cara needs someone that would be good at the puzzles. Like, if she was with like a CT or someone like a Johnny Bananas or something like that, which she's also had a rivalry with over the years, like, I'd feel better for her in that kind of rivalry, but I'm not overly high on it. Chris here says, oh, so Cara is the female GOAT now. It's funny because weren't you just months ago saying that Tor? Never mind. Listen, people can grow. People can grow on this podcast. Chris, allow Cara to have some growth.
I've always said Cara is the current. I do think that Tori has a long runway, and I think she can surpass. She has all the tools. Yeah. I think she's like Cara. I don't think he's the GOAT. I think
has more social. I think you made the case. I think you made the case for her being a legend. Basically, when she's
not a legend. She's not there yet. She hasn't put the runs on the board. That's a cricket reference for you Americans. She's not there yet, but I do think she's got all the tools that she'll probably surpass because she's just gets the callback every single possible season there is.
Yeah, interesting. Lena says, the Vacation Alliance has more influence than TJ. That's why they're supposed to be cast for All Stars 5. What is it with this Vacation Alliance? Like, are they just like hanging out with the cast outside of, the producers, the casting producers outside of the game? Are they giving them money on the down low? Like, I just don't get how they're always front of mind for these people. But let's talk about this season. We don't want to go into the negative stuff too much here in the podcast. Obviously you brought up the whole conversation here for Leroy, which for me, similar to Chris, I learned something new. I had no clue that men could get postpartum depression. Were you, as someone who's a dad, were you aware of this? Did this hit home with you? Because obviously you look at this completely different to me, being a single guy, no kids, anything like that. Obviously it was a heartwarming moment to hear about his struggles and the fact that he's working with Cam through that. And, he's really taking ownership of what he's going through, which is great to see. But how did this hit for you? Were you aware of this?
Yeah, like obviously I know when having kids and there's so many individual circumstances that make up how people feel in the moment, right? It's obviously a lot more prevalent with women, and even then it's not talked about enough, like anywhere nearly enough. My wife went through some pretty bad postpartum with our second child, sorry. But I never did. I didn't, but I understand where it was coming from. I could see all the emotions turned up to 11 in every regard. Like all the happiness is amplified, all the sadness is amplified, and all the, I guess it's like so much of the pregnancy. It's 9 months. It's a big chunk, and it's changing your life. Like there's so much things that you have to prepare for, and you're mentally getting ready for it. You're physically getting ready for it by changing a house around, by going to doctor's appointments, by doing all this stuff. And when that stops, it's like a big change, anything like that. You're ramping yourself up for this big thing. And then when that changes and it's now a physical baby in your life, that's something else to get used to get your head around, which sounds a really clinical way to, not even clinical, but it sounds like a very detached way to look at your child. But I'm just saying, like, it's a change to everything that you've been doing, that you've been ramping up for so long, that it can absolutely come. I didn't necessarily have it, but like I said, I know how one of the circumstances, if I can get a little bit real, our third baby, Phoenix, he's just over 2 now. He was born like at the tail end of COVID. So like that. He's a straight up COVID baby. Like all the appointments, everything was way harder because we had, first of all, we had 2 elder kids, but also COVID made things difficult to get into appointments, bringing people with her. So my wife had to do a lot of stuff alone because I was looking after the kids while she went and did pregnancy stuff. And the big thing for me that really, really killed me was delivery. I was, unfortunately, for our 3rd one and our final baby, our youngest, my little man, I wasn't even there for the delivery because we had the other 2 kids. We had COVID, so you can only bring one person. And we sort of thought, practicality wise, what would be the best assist for my wife in that moment was to have her mum there instead of me. So like I didn't even get to be there, and they were in hospital for 2 days where we couldn't go visit or anything. So I was sitting at home with my 2 eldest, which I love, but I'm just like, my baby's been born and I can't even touch him. I can't hold him. I can't do anything. So when he finally came home, I like broke down in tears and just held him like for ages. And like, oh my God, you're finally here after 3 days of knowing that you're in the world and I can't see you. That was huge for me. Like I was broken not being able to hold him. But I mean, now I'd gladly throw him at whoever wants to hold him. But at the time, that was tough. So like all the emotions are just so elevated in every sense. Even if the male doesn't have all the hormones raging, all that sort of thing, it's just everything is so huge and impactful and life-changing that I understand the implications. Like some people, it would hit people very differently,
Yeah, very complex stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, Danica here says, I can imagine for men, it's less about the physical, but emotional and the anxiety of the future. Moms have both physical and emotional, but men have been overlooked in this department. And then Dolores says here, you could see in Leroy's face the emotion. It was like coming back to him when he was talking about it. And I think there's an additional layer of complexity that you learn about. I wasn't aware, but towards the end, when Leroy said he didn't have his dad as a part of his life, which I think adds that other layer to it as well, probably with the emotions and the feelings and things like that. And he wants to do better by Cam and his son.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Charlotte says here, huge props for Leroy and Cam for speaking up about PPD. Shows pure strength and wanting to be the best parents possible. Darren is saying, especially with him, he always said he never thought he would have kids. And then Dolores also say, I just say Cam and Leroy's relationship is beautiful to see, and totally agree with that. There was one more thing I wanted to touch on as well. Lena asked if it was spoilers talking about casting rumors for All Stars 5. In my mind, it's not like I don't mind. Like I haven't actually read into who's going to be on the cast, but to know who's going to be playing the season, I don't mind that as much. And I would normally spoil myself prior to a season on who's going to play. I just don't want to know placement or anything that happened in the season, because that kind of ruins the fun for me in experiencing it, and potentially also the fun for people who do watch spoilers, then see me talk and be completely off on my reads, because half of the fun is being off on the read sometimes in a season. And, I may be thinking that Cara Maria's, it happens all the time. I might be thinking Cara Maria is something pretty, and then next thing we know, Cam's going to beat her this season. Who knows? But that's half of the beauty, I think, of not knowing the placement at least. Danica says, wow, Kona, I bet it made another layer of a special bond for you and your baby boy. Well, he's past that now. He told me last week, sometimes, he's between that. What did you say? The emotion of wanting to hug them or kick them, basically, at times.
I said this, like, I do think one of the biggest things about being a parent is that you constantly have these very warring feelings and emotions, and they're both always valid and 100% feeling that seem to go against each other. Like, it's the person that you love most in the world, but the person you want to hit most in the world. And like, I want them to stay little tiny babies forever and ever and ever, but I also want to see what they're like as adults. Like now I want to see everything that they're going to become. And it's this constant, like, warring emotions that, so it's very much like that. Like you want all the things at the same time.
You know what? Talking about warring emotions, I guess we have to talk about warring emotions on, this episode. It's been happening for a couple episodes. It's very uncomfortable to watch, but it is a big part of the season. It's going to continue to play a big part of the season. And we're going for something so wholesome, like talking about kids and being parent, to talking about the relationship of Nicole and Laurel. But that continued to happen here and evolve within this episode. So much to dive into. Like Laurel said, they're attracted to each other. They've got this playful nature. This great conversation that happened between Flora and Nicole, to Nicole finally talking to Laurel as well and saying, hey, we kind of can't be in each other's bed. Like, you need to be away, which I kind of respected. She's trying to push Laurel away, but Laurel's like, I want more of you. I want to be, I feel like Laurel is so much more invested in getting this relationship back up. What's your thoughts on this roller coaster of things that happened, within this episode? Because it was complex as well, but for different reasons.
I mean, I just want to say, first of all, roller coaster, although appropriate, and Nicole said it as well, but she actually said in a confessional, which really sat funny to me and is kind of a small thing that I think is indicative of bigger picture, right? It's one of those red flags. And even though it's not a big thing, when she goes, Laurel really hates when I say it's a roller coaster relationship. It's a roller coaster relationship. Like, she goes, Laurel hates it when I say that. She's uncomfortable with it. And then she just says it to like the camera, to confessional. And that shows what Nicole is like. Like, there's a little bit of a dig there. If Laurel doesn't like it, I'm saying it. And even if it's not intentional, that's the kind of thing that shows that it's a very toxic relationship. She doesn't care what Laurel wants. She's not interested in the benefit or the well-being of Laurel there. Even though it's something that hurts her, she's going to say it anyway. And that, I think that is a bigger picture of what they're like. As soon as, like, it happens on reality TV shows, and it's weird because, as I said in previous episodes, Laurel is such a strong, powerful woman in her career, physically, on the challenge, all that sort of thing. She's very proud. And to see, like, chasing around the house to wrestle and stuff is such a, like you see that on so many reality TV shows. As soon as they're running around wrestling, I'm like, what is this? Yuck. Like, something's going on here. As far as Nicole, look, she did, I guess, try, but look, if Laurel was throwing herself at me and trying to wrestle me around the house, it would be hard to resist that as well, I guess. Like, Laurel's a beautiful woman, so, like, I get it, but it is kind of, they say the term,
it's extra complex. It's extra complex.
It is. There's so much there.
Well, it's extra complex in the sense also that Laurel very easily could be the downfall of Nicole in a game where she's playing for $250,000, right? So it's like, even if she's not that into Laurel, she knows it's toxic, it's dangerous. She kind of likes the attention, like Flora said, you're like a kid, you like the attention kind of thing. But then there's the added bonus of $250,000 on the line, and she's like, I want to get to the end as far as I can, and having Laurel upset at me maybe is not going to help that, So I feel like there's so many, again, layers to this thing that doesn't make it a very easy conversation. I want to read some of the comments here that has come in. Your Jay saying Flora calling out Nicole was the best. Flora clocked Nicole after knowing her for a couple of weeks. Queen of good reads, according to Chris. Also here, Lena says when Flora, I almost said Flocker, when Flora walked away, she said, "You like it. You're like a child," which is basically what I said. Nicole was horrible playing dumb when Flora was talking to her. Yeah, definitely. Nicole loves the attention, I think. And that's what it comes down to. But she did ultimately tell Laurel, maybe we should call it on this stuff. It's not good. At least she's done that. Like, if she loves the attention, that's not an easy thing to do. But now we're seeing next on, it's going to continue on. I don't know if it's because Laurel keeps coming to her. It's just very weird.
Late,
I don't know who's in the right. I don't know who's in the wrong here. It just feels like they're both
it's almost
doing
worse.
the wrong thing.
Like, I get that. Like, she did do the right thing, but it makes it worse to do it the morning after sleeping with her. Like, that's the worst possible time to do it. You know what I mean? Like, she's gonna feel way worse. She's gonna, like, react way worse. Like, like, either do it before or, like, she should have been like, oh well, I guess I'm in this now. I'm not gonna upset Laurel like the very next morning. Maybe after the season we'll break up, but you've made your bed, now lie in it. At least if you're talking about, it is the right thing to be honest. Maybe it's 12 hours too late. It is the right thing to be honest, but when you're talking about game, like, will it risk her $250,000? This is the worst way to do it.
100%. Yeah, and Danica says, "Nah, Chris. Nicole was just getting in Laurel's head with that comment." Darren also calls BS, saying Nicole is saying, "Take your pants
It's more
off next
gameplay.
episode." So, yeah, it's listen. I don't know how much time I want to spend on
It's the
this.
roller
It's
coaster.
probably it's my least favorite part of the season is seeing these two. Like, it actually drains me emotionally just to watch this play out in front of me, especially since we know the outcome of this whole season, and not the season itself, but the relationship between these two. We kind of know where that's going to end, which is not great. So not easy to watch. Probably need to move on from it. Let's talk about the daily. What did you think of the daily? A blast from the past from Deal 2. Brad was extremely excited to get into this one.
So excited.
Felt very confident. I need to know from either yourself, Kahuna, or people in the live, if I'm sure someone in the live will know, because I don't have that memory. I watched Deal 2, I feel like, but I can't remember a lot of these seasons. I watched them in such quick succession. They kind of blended into one for me. Was Brad on the winning team when they did this? Was there a reason that he was so confident? Was he previously in the winning team? Because it did not look good for our boy Brad out there, Kuna.
Some of the things these people are going, hey, I did this on X season 20 years ago. It doesn't mean shit. like as far as I don't know. He's going, well, and it was different. First was, I think it was like go-karts or something. Like, it looked different in the little preview. I don't remember the original season at all. But to go, yeah, like, I'm confident, let's go, like, run at it, is such a weirdly confident thing. And I guess, like, it's good to see Brad excited, at least, and different to the excited that we talked about on last week's episode, which we won't go into. But yeah, he was keen, and then, like a lot of guys that get super excited, maybe too fast and messed it all up. Like, he was very, like, just grabbing at everything to the point where Leroy was screaming at him, man. Like, they were angry, and with good
Leroy
reason,
was
I guess. Yeah, he was pissed.
Leroy was, but I think Leroy had a mixture of emotions happening at that point. He realized, I'm in trouble because I just pissed off Cara Maria. She's going to come back and want some revenge here, which was said from the start. Brad messed it up. He was so confident that he was going to do extremely well here. So I feel like it was a mixture of him being upset at Brad versus upset at himself, the game move that was made previously, the position that he was in, knowing he's playing for his family who took time off to come and play this game, went away from his business. Like, I just feel like all of it came together for Leroy. And like you said, he doesn't normally get flustered like that or angry like that, but like you said, these are grown ass people. These are people with real responsibilities. There's some big stakes. This is not Leroy with very little to lose if he goes home this season. You know what I mean? So that's coming out a little bit more in this. But like a lot of people said, such a great daily. It looked like so much fun. TJ getting into the luge, going down it.
That was great.
Whenever he can take part in the daily and like opening up what would it be, like a cylinder that he opened up with the water in it, and basically, them having to race down to go and basically fill it back up and then clock it. One of the things I was thinking when it first started, Kuna, is why didn't they get the first person just to not ignore every single thing, race down immediately, get the bucket below it, start filling into the bucket, and then the next couple of people would immediately go and get all of the different water, because you would collect most of it. Nobody used that strategy. No one had one person just like Cara Maria's team seemed to have a pretty good strategy of the person who went first went to the last one and grabbed as many as they could from the last one. But no one just tried to get there and salvage as much of the water as they could, because I noticed that they could use the bucket at the end to throw it back in at the top. So no one used that strategy. Were you thinking of that at all when you were watching this play out? Because a lot of people sort of, there seemed to be this congestion, in the middle of the luge where everybody would get together.
Yeah, I don't know what the meta or the optimal strategy is there. You definitely want to get something under that flowing tap as soon as you can. Absolutely. I just think it's funny that, like, of all the hosts that they could have got, like, the fact that TJ is a former X Games champion, and like, he wasn't slowing down at all. Like, he probably wasn't even involved, and then he got up there and he's like, hey, can I be in this? Like, you know who I am, right? I want to do this. So the fact that TJ was flying, he's not pulling back on the brakes at all. I guess that's why they had to try to get there as quickly as possible. But you're right, like that bucket thing, I didn't even think of that. That's a really interesting insight, because I was like, yeah, like I don't know what you would do, but those bags didn't look that big. Where the flow was just going all the way. I thought someone was going to lose the entire tube. To be honest with you, the way it was kind of flowing out of it.
I
That's a
felt
good
bad for Brad
strategy.
as well. I felt bad for Brad as well. Like
Yeah.
when everybody was having a go at him, and like Nicole's going hard at him as well, and he's like, "What can I do? We failed. I messed up. Okay, like just let me be. I messed up." And they just kept going in on him. Ryan said that Landon won that challenge with Brittany originally, so obviously blast from the past there. But Brad, obviously having done it before, felt he could do well. Darren says easy Cano and Brad being too fast. Comment. Then also saying,
Darren got me.
Darren says, I think the bucket could only be used for the bags. At the end. Okay, I thought they did use some of it, because I saw them like tip some of it in one of the shots. But maybe you're right, Darren, and that's probably why. I'm sure if they could have used it to capture as much of the water and then put it back in, someone would have figured it out. And King Landon, yes, Thana, King Landon won that one in the original one, but so much fun. Again, we didn't really talk a lot about Adam getting his haircut in the beginning, and that moment between Leroy and Adam as well, which was a fun little moment,
That was awesome.
as well. And then again, Adam seems like such a supportive person in general, like seeing him and Veronica run up when we know Veronica was struggling and pushing her from behind.
Got a hand on the back,
yeah. He seems like such a great team player. Like I don't have much history with him and know much about him. I don't know if he's always been this kind of person, but he seems like a really likable dude from what I'm seeing so far this season. I'm really liking the Adam content, even though it's minimal. There's just enough there, which makes me wonder. Like we're seeing and Chris is going to hate me for saying this. We're not seeing a lot of Jay. Jay's only just come in. And when he's in, it's because of the comment or the bed situation next to him and him not being able to sleep. But Adam, I feel like, is getting a lot more positive content compared to someone like Ajay so far this season. Like he's actually visible quite a bit.
But also at the same time, yeah, I would. But he's playing it in a really, like, if we were to say it was like a game and analyze it from game moves rather than just people interacting, right? It seems like he's playing an awesome under the radar social game, like that haircut scene with Leroy, and it shows Leroy showcasing his skill, his craft, his profession of just chatting and being a barber while he cuts his hair and entertaining everyone, just talking away. I love that for Leroy. And Adam was, yeah, you're right, he's so nice and so supportive, and it seems like he's playing a very under the radar social game. I mentioned last week, and it keeps sticking in my head. I can't let it go. Ace is playing the same under the radar game, but like way, way under the radar. He's like, I'm avoiding the cameraman. I don't want any conventionals. And I'm so traumatized by our draft. I'm always like, where's Ace? I want more Ace. I'm getting Adam. He looks great. But where's Ace? As far as flying under the radar goes and disappearing, Ace has got that down.
Ace is playing All Stars.
I like him a lot.
Ace is playing All Stars 6. He's not playing this All Stars season. Like I haven't seen him at all. He's prepping for All Stars 6. He's so irrelevant at this stage in the game. Like I just don't see it.
Every week we'll have Ace Watch. See, did he do anything this
Ace
week?
Watch.
Nope.
Yeah, Chris will be on the J Watch, and you'll be on the Ace Watch every week for the podcast. Darren says Adam was always great. Juliet believes Adam is fake to her. So again, different people, different takes. I just think sometimes when someone comes across as very nice, you're like, what's wrong with this person? Why are they so nice all the time? Clearly there must be something here that they're hiding, and that's why they're coming across as being so nice. So that's probably the vibe you're getting. Victoria loved the barbershop moment. Obviously, Leroy in his element doing that barbershop, cutting hair and things like that. It was good to see him in his element as well. Chris say, we are seeing a lot of Jay. WTF, y'all just don't highlight what he does every week. What is he doing? Like, he's not doing anything at this stage.
I gave him praise last week.
Oh, really? What did he do? I forgot.
No, just for backing up Kara and playing it and saying that Kara might be more of a viable working option going forward, and he saw it as a strategy move to be associated with Kara and be on her team because she's probably going to go far. And I thought that's pretty clever strategy from Jay.
Yeah. So I feel like that's at least 3 mentions now, maybe 4 even, Dolores. Even though Chris doesn't want to give us the points for this. Double Nicky says Adam was not always great. Okay, that's good to know. It's good to know. Because listen, people can evolve for sure. Not who Chris. Yeah, I to be honest, I completely forgot. I actually and I'm not even playing it up for the camera here until he brought up Ace. I forgot he was on this season. I actually didn't remember that he was on this season. We have not seen him.
I will never forget. I will never forget being tricked into Ace.
I need to know what Chris is short for. I need to use the government name here, Christopher or Christian. Like, listen, it's just Chris. Just Chris.
Full name.
But I will say this: my English teacher at school used to call me Christopher whenever she got angry, and I'm like, that's not my name. It means nothing to me. So I get where you're going. It's Chris doing the teacher thing here, basically wanting to call me out. But yeah, what a fun daily. Obviously, the losing group here ends up being Brad, Leroy, Ryan, who kind of shit the bed here, for lack of a better term, because he had the bag of water that he just forgot. I don't know how he did that. And Brandon. So the guys all in danger here. And as soon as I knew that those were the 4 guys in the bottom, I knew the Brandon Leroy thing was up for discussion, especially since Cara Maria was in the middle group. You kind of knew she was going to get her revenge at that point, right, Kahuna? It was like seeing the Titanic go towards the iceberg. It's happening.
Yeah, perfect. Like just on a silver platter for her as well. She's like, even though Brad really he shit the bed the most. Like he really should have been, as far as if they take that they were the worst performer kind of approach, but that's not strategy. Obviously, like strategy in this regard was, or at least revenge was Brandon and Leroy, and to have them in the same team with Clara in the middle, not even winning, so she gets to vote. Awesome. Like for her anyway, like really bad for Brandon Leroy, but great for Cara.
Yeah. I don't know what's happening here with Lovable Nikki and Chris. They're starting to team up on me here, saying it's even better that it's just Chris, just randomly extend it and change it each time. Don't be giving her like ideas here. What's going on? YouTube Cat saying Leroy is doing outstanding this season, being in the bottom 4 out of 5 challenges. Yeah, it's not. Leroy's not having a good time at the moment with his placements this season. Like he can, there's no one more nervous about that, Kuna, than myself. Having him as my number 1 guy pick. Like he was the person I've banked on to do well this season. And then also in the arena, when they had the arena taking place, I think it was Adam who said, like, I want Leroy to win because Leroy would be easier to beat in the final because he's bad at puzzles. Why did they show us that? Why did they show us that, Kahuna? If it's not going to come back, the editors put these things in there for a reason. If it's not going to come back to bite Leroy in the butt later on, he's either going to overcome his difficulties with puzzles because he said he's been practicing them a lot in the beginning of the season. That's one narrative that they've set up, while he's been away. And then the other one is Adam noticing that he's not good at puzzles, and maybe that's something where he can take advantage of in a final. So very interested to see which one's going to play out for the season, but very nervous when it comes to Leroy's chances at the stage.
One good thing for you, Leroy, is that he like we've seen multiple times now. Cam in the winning team, even said like beforehand, she's got 2 people in her team with stars, and she's saying, "I want to win so I can protect Leroy." And they're like, "Well, what about us? Like we want to win too." But Leroy has his powerful Black Queen in his corner, and I think that's going to protect him. Like, even though he's sucking right now, 4 out of 5 challenges, he's got Cam working overtime, putting her game at jeopardy, upsetting people just to protect him all the time. So he's got backup there. He'll go far. I think he'll be all right. Hopefully.
It's so funny you mentioned Cam being this queen in the game. I've just gotten sucked back in. I used to play a lot of chess as a kid, and this last week I don't know why, it's been like so good. I've just been getting back onto chess.com. I've been playing a lot of chess. The queen's definitely by far the strongest piece on
what's
the
your
board,
ELO?
right?
What's
so if you look at it from that perspective. No, I just literally just got back into it. So I used to be way back when I played when I was a kid. I used to be about 1,600, but I'm just getting back into it now.
Whoa! That would put you like
Yeah.
in the top
So
like 1% of the world or something.
yeah, well, I
1,600,
I actually
good.
played against this guy called Beyond Pick. Like he was like he was a world champion. Like, and he was in South Africa. I played with him at school level and stuff like that. So I used to be really into chess, but now I'm horrible. Like I'm only like rated like 600 or something. I'm working my way back up, you know. So I'm playing against
That's
people, and
awesome, dude.
I'm finding it actually kind of interesting playing against that rated because people don't do the moves that you expect them to do, which is kind of interesting at times. But yeah, I'm trying to get back into it basically. But yeah, the queen is the by far the strongest piece on the board. So you know they're trying to go after the king at this stage, but the queen is keeping him safe. Like you said, it's so interesting how that is playing out like almost like a chess game here on the challenge this season. And you know, looking at basically how it's going to play out, like you said here, Cam winning. I don't think she's keeping him safe by winning. Like, is winning really the
No,
best move?
you got to
Is
be in
that the
that
best
middle
move
voting
at this
block.
stage? Yeah, you want to be almost in that middle group. You want to control where the votes are going to go, right? And by winning, I don't think she could have lost that one, but having two people with stars, they were going to be hyper motivated. If you're someone with a star, winning makes sense because you don't care where the direction of the vote's going. You just want to keep your star. If you're someone who doesn't have a star, I feel like the best position to be in is in the middle. And how do you play for the middle? That's hard to get. You know, if you want some power in the game, if you want to be able to throw people down there, it's easier to go for the win and not be last. I don't know how you aim to be in the middle in some of these games. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I feel like this game is more complex than what we thought initially with the way that they've structured it.
It is, yeah. And I mean, I'm kind of tired of the team thing because it just makes the like so little. It's one team of 5 that makes the decision, or 4 makes the decision for like the entire house. Like I'm that format is sitting funny with me. That middle block has so much power, especially for not winning. Like that's always like that's a weird thing, but yeah, we don't know yet what the best position to be in. It does seem like coming second is the most powerful spot, which is not what we're used to in the challenge. Like it's such a weird position to be in, you know, like you want to almost aim for that so you can at least influence the direction.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And Thana, I honestly like you're gonna set me up for that by asking me what my rating is. But like for people who are like international masters, I think like grandmasters and things like that, they're all above 2,000, 2,100. I think you have to be 2,100 just to be like an international master before you go for grandmaster. So like it's decent, but it's not like that level. Like people who are really good, like I think Magnus
It's
is still the
like
best chess player in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Magnus.
he's like 2,383 or something like that is his rating or something like that. And then yeah, it's just interesting. So chess.com has been blocked from school with people playing it. That I feel like I get it. It's
that's good.
Yeah, but chess is such
that's
a good
positive
game. You
for
play
the
that with your
future.
mind. Yeah.
Look, you know what? I'm not good at chess. I didn't grow up playing chess. I really, really wish I could be, and I feel like I'm way too old and past it now. And I bought my daughter like a chess set, like the proper tournament style ones with the like big pieces that's easy to use. And I'm like, because she said I want to play chess. I was like, cool. I want you to play chess. I don't know how to teach you, but I would love for you to start playing chess at an early age so that you're really good later.
Get into it.
And
yeah,
she discovered video games, and chess is gone now.
I've got some games set up with my nephew this weekend. We're jamming some chess this weekend because we've played some chess when I went to South Africa to visit. I actually got him introduced into it, and now he's like absolutely hooked on it. I'm just nervous for the time where he's going to start consistently kicking my ass because he's got like age on his side. Like the younger you are, you get into it. At some point, he's going to probably surpass me. Danica says, my scouts always sign up for chess during summer camp since it's an inside building and they have AC Smart Scouts. Alina also says, watch Queen of Katwa. It's a true story about a young chess player. Well, I've watched The Queen's Gambit.
Good movie.
Which was
about
really,
an African.
really good movie.
Young African girl.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's really good.
Okay.
It's on I think it's on
I'll
Disney
definitely
Plus.
watch it. Thanks for the recommendation. Yeah. I'm finally learning Go. And yeah, Dolores, I've watched Queen Gambit as well. So yeah, basically, obviously, the way that it plays out here, they get Leroy and obviously Brandon to go in. Cara Maria puts a foot down in this one. And there wasn't really much fallout afterwards. No club scene this time. Did you miss the club scene? Everybody seemed to just accept, hey, you gotta take it if you give it. Like every action has a reaction in this game, and
Yeah.
this is a reaction from going after Kara.
I do like I know it was kind of like I get it was revenge, but I do like the way they accept like, yeah, okay, I get it. Whereas Kara's freak out last week was incredibly emotional, and I guess because it was the first shot, she didn't expect it, and they did expect it to come back to him, so it's different. But I like this, like when it's a game, someone takes a shot at you, you cop it on the chin and go, okay, like I get it. It's gameplay. I'm gonna get you back now when I get a chance, and you don't have to like have the freak out all the time,
Now, do you think that, Cam and Leroy's taken a shot at Kara? Kara's now gone back and taken a shot at them. Do you think there is a runway or space there for them to find some common ground again and say, hey, we actually do care for each other. We are friends outside of this game. We've both had a shot. We've both failed at it. Let's just work together now. Because this is not how I saw this game playing out at all. In all of the drafts that I did, I actually said, this is going to be a very solid trio. There's going to be a strong alliance coming into the game. It's not played out that way. Is there still room here for them to say, let bygones be bygones? We've both taken a shot. We've both missed.
I don't know. Like because there's arguments on both sides, right? Like if I'm taking it from Cam's side, like I said, Kara has the chance to come back anytime she goes in the sand. She's always probably the odds-on favorite, especially now against anyone in the house. Laurel will be the closest, unless there's some sort of math problem. I guess she might be in trouble. But Kara's always a chance to come back. So if you keep aiming at her, she's more than likely going to come back a lot already. But at the same time, you don't want to run against her in the final. Like you want her out. You can't have her there at the end. So there's that conflicting thing that, and probably the same goes for Kara as well. Like maybe not from the same, like if you throw them down, they're coming back. But the fact that Cam and Leroy are so socially influential in that house and are wielding that power, at the same time, you want them on your side, but you also don't want that in the house. Like you kind of want that, to be taken out as well so that you have the power. So there's both sides of that argument. I don't know which one's stronger, but I feel like once the strike has already been done, that paranoia, even if they do say, look, let's work together, you have to know at the back of your head, they're willing to take a shot at me because they've literally done it already. Is that always going to be there? And will I give them a chance to take that shot again, or do I take my shot first? And that is, I mean, that's always a challenge. Difficult. That's Survivor. That's any show like that. But yeah, the thing with the challenge, the great thing about the challenge is that a person can always come back and get their revenge. So whether it's immediately from the sand or in the fact that they bring people back for multiple seasons, that's why we get these storylines over years, over decades. And that makes it so much more interesting and fun. I don't know what the answer is here. My logic says get Cara Maria out as soon as you possibly can if you want a chance to win. That's the bare bones of it, like every shot you can get, take it, but just know that it's going to come back in some way.
And can I just say, it sucks for Cara Maria on an emotional point of view, and it hurts me that emotionally she had to go through what she went through last week, but there was something weirdly nostalgic about seeing Cara Maria being the number one threat in the house, people going after her. Like, I feel like that's just the Cara Maria we all knew for so many years. She was constantly being targeted by the house. She was constantly being thrown into like eliminations. You know what I mean? Like it was this nostalgic feeling of, okay, all this right in the world. Cara Maria, again, she's not at the top power here. She's not running the Cara Maria cult. She's playing on the back foot, a place she's very familiar with, a place she's very comfortable with. Not that she can't play on the front foot, but I know a lot of fans love seeing the fighter Cara Maria when she's fighting to get to the end. So people gunning for her this whole season probably, if that is going to be the case, and if she doesn't have that allies, and you've got a very strong force like Leroy and Cam coming after her, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And then, but she's so good socially as well. Like I feel like she has improved. She's got other connections. We saw her talk to, obviously her and Laurel are starting to mend fences, and she's saying to Laurel, I'll be there for you no matter what, type of thing, and that conversation happening. So she's working her magic. There's other connections she can work on this season. I think there's a lot of runway still for Cara Maria, and I'm excited to see where the season's going to go out. I think as fans, it's hard when you've got two very strong queens like Cara Maria and Cam going after each other, and because you have to choose almost a side. But I feel like regardless of where it's going to end, like obviously I'm always going to lean slightly towards Cara Maria because I'm just a big fan and I appreciate her. But if Cam did outsmart her, did end up getting her out of this game as well, you would have nothing but respect for the game move and say, the season is better for the fact that we've got two heavyweights going after each other rather than working together, which is something that I feel like has been lacking in a lot of the normal seasons. You don't see the heavyweights coming after each other as often as we've seen here this season, Kuna, basically.
Because it often has consequences. Like I said, they come back. I didn't. Yeah. You're right. I never really noticed, or I guess I didn't acknowledge in my own head. This season, Cara is playing a much better social game. And that's not normally her bag. Like, I think when I said, especially for Chris in the chat, when I say Cara's the GOAT, and I think it's because of this sort of thing where I don't think Cara's a perfect player. She has a lot of flaws in her game. Mentally, emotionally, socially, she's always sort of been let down a little bit in that regard. Like, maths and puzzles are a weakness of hers. And she doesn't have this complete all-around game. So for her to be able to accomplish what she has, one as much as she has, despite these flaws, not because of, it makes her the GOAT for me. That's why she's actually better than what her package of tools necessarily is. But the fact that she's improving as well, because socially this season she is much better than she's been. I don't know if it's because like she doesn't have Paulie there, but I think Cara's thing to get her like really solidify that is she has to get used to the fact that she is the threat and not have it as an emotional betrayal and know that she's playing from a position of power I think she's using that influence, that intimidation factor.
Can I just say I disagree wholeheartedly on the emotional side of things. Like I reckon Cara Marie's, I think the thing that makes Cara Maria very strong is the fact that she plays with her emotions. I think it's the fact that when someone betrays her, she takes it very personal to the point where she wants to get that revenge. It gives her the fire she needs to go and eliminate people in the arena, basically, and why she's been so successful in the arena. I look at it, and this is going to go over the head for a lot of people from the US, and I apologize about that, but I have to sort of look at South Africa as a rugby team, right? So rugby is very similar to American football, but we don't play with pads and things like that. The rules are slightly different, but you have to go score touchdowns, tries on the other side. And South Africa has got this thing. I just watched the documentary. We've just won. This is a humble brag, by the way, back-to-back World Cups. We're now by far the most successful team in Rugby World Cup history, which is amazing for me being South African, that we've been able to do that. But the way that they do it is the psychology behind South Africa is that the whole world's against us. The world does not want us to succeed. And they take that emotion and harness that and put it into performances against the teams that sometimes people think will be better than them. So I feel like Cara Maria having that emotions and turning it into a weapon is like, if you take the emotion away from Cara Maria, you're going to have a soulless person who's not going to be able to go into the arenas with the fire that they need to go and perform. So I think from that aspect, I don't mind the fact that she takes things very personal. I don't like, as long as she can go away from the game and not let it affect her personal life, which I think she's gotten a lot better. She's had a break from the game and all that kind of thing. I think she's okay. Another thing for me is having to defend her on her social strategic game here is that if you look at the fact that she has not been in a final for many years now, like clearly she's doing some things right strategically with her connections, socially and things like that, to the point where she at one point had so many people wanting to defend her, and it's what got fans really annoyed at her. So I think her social game has improved a long time ago. It's not. Yeah, I don't think it just improved this season. I think if you had to call out a weakness, if we talked about the GOAT thing and that, the one thing we all know is that if it comes down to like math, puzzles, she's okay sometimes, but math is probably the thing that catches her out the most. So maybe there's still some things she can work on there, but she's pretty well-rounded. And I think what I like about Cara Maria's game is that she can adapt to the situation each season. Like, she's now gotten used to being in power after the last couple of seasons that she's played. And this season, it looks like she's in a almost middle to underdog position at times, and she's now having to play a different game, which she's also used to. A lot of people can't adapt to the different levels of the game that is required to be able to get to the end. And I think if you're looking at a GOAT, you have to look at someone that you can say, well, they've got multiple ways to the end. They can play the middle game, they can play the underdog game, they can play it as a top dog, but they can adapt to their situation. And I think she's got a lot of those tools. You have to hope you get her on the right elimination on the day to be able to take her out. Sorry, I know I had to go into and swimming. Yes, Darren, good point. Swimming is another thing she's not great at. I had to defend my girl here. I had to defend Cara Maria a little bit because I felt like, like I know you're giving her credit, but I feel like we needed to give her even more credit than what you were giving her. So I had to step in there.
I said she is the GOAT because of it, and you're like, no. Yeah. She's even better than that.
She's even better than She's even better than that. You're not giving her enough credit. But no, enough about the Cara Maria love. Everybody knows we're big fans of her here on the podcast. Not to the point where we wouldn't acknowledge if she got taken out by a Cam this season. Like I would give Cam her flowers if that happened. So it's not a Cara Maria or nothing kind of podcast. We appreciate all the different players and the fact that we've got these heavyweights going after each other. But obviously, what did you think of the arena? We need to talk about it. You know, what an interesting elimination, having both Brandon and Leroy suspended in the air above a maze that they have to move around.
This was, I mean, it's interesting. Like it's certainly when you're hanging from midair, your leverage and the way you pull things would be like such a hard learning curve, I think. But if you explain that to someone and just say it outright or what it was, I think it would sound incredibly boring. But the way that it played out, the fact that Brandon had 3-1 or whatever the numbers were, or 3-0, whatever the numbers were, and Leroy looked like he was just so far gone to get that comeback, and how the two strategies was Brandon was doing 1 by 1, whereas Leroy got all of his in the middle. That those two different things, and then the way it kind of like right at the end, like it ended up being kind of interesting. I think on paper it sounded a lot more boring than it actually played out, and we're lucky that it sort of the two different approaches made it an interesting battle, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Charlotte coming in here, hot, saying the edit was as janky as Leroy's movements this episode.
Well, really the edit was good then.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was janky, but it got a W in the end, and that's what matters. Yeah. It's not how we got there; it's the fact that we actually got the W. Chris says, "I've never seen an elimination I would suck at more." I think that this is one of those eliminations, you know, we say this often on the podcast, but it's probably a hell of a lot harder to do than what you appreciate until you're out there, because you're pretty much doing like the Superman while being extended in the air. And then you've got to like move your limbs with the heavy weight of the whole maze below you.
Yeah.
And you got to keep it extremely still at times. So it's kind of like when you go to the gym, for those who do go to the gym, and you're doing pump classes and they get you to like lift your arm off a weight, and then you have to hold it for like 5 seconds. You can't just drop it back down immediately, but the 5 seconds never stop. You're just consistently holding up this puzzle in this maze while your shoulders are on fire, you know, your legs are on fire trying to do it. Like, I think it would have been hella hard to do, and respect to both of the boys for not giving up, because Brandon in the actual challenge said, I am struggling. Like, it's burning. I'm struggling to keep
was tired.
Up. But he was tired. He was getting gassed. And like you said, it's one of those ones where I looked at it and I thought, I don't know if I enjoyed it as much as some other eliminations. Like, I feel like there's more exciting eliminations. For me, All-Stars this season, if I had to be critical about something, I feel like the eliminations have fallen flat for me so far. Outside of the one where they had the ball in the big cylinder type tube where they had to go back and forth, that was kind of exciting. I'd like to see more actual head-ons, but probably it's because they know they've got a wide range of people here. Some that are in their 50s, some that are in like their late 20s and early 30s. Someone could get hurt if you do a lot more head-to-head bangers, but that's kind of what I've been missing a little bit. I feel like this elimination would have probably been a lot more, like, it would have been painful, but I would have loved to have given it a go and be out there and tried. So unlike Chris, I don't know if I would have been good at it, but I would have liked to have had a go at it at the very least. How do you think you'd go on this one, Kuna, if you were suspended up there having to do the old puzzle? Do you reckon you could take Corey?
Probably not. This is not. Look, it's certainly not. I'm being suspended by something that can actually carry my weight. That's all right. And puzzles and mazes, I'd be I'm not saying I'm good at it. I have no experience, but at least it's not something where I'm looking at, stairs or a ladder or something. Like running. There's no running involved. I like the lying down aspect of it. I would be okay with that. But no, this one looks hard as hell, like way harder than you sort of give it credit for in your head, because you're just like, oh, they're doing a labyrinth or a maze, but it's holding a 50 to 60-pound maze up in the air while doing it at the same time. Incredibly hard. I don't think I would have done well, but like logically, me not doing physical activities while doing a puzzle, I feel like it would be better for me, but I know how hard that would have been. That's like incredibly difficult.
Yeah. Blood Money, welcome to the live. Dropped in a little bit later today. Is asking, how do you feel about Leroy talking about the PPD and mental health while giving Adam a haircut? We actually went into it in depth earlier in the live. So after the live is finished, if you want to go back and watch the beginning part of it, I just don't think we can do it justice twice. Like I think specifically Kahuna had some really insightful thoughts on it as someone who's a parent and have had some of his own personal stories and things like that he could share as well. I think you would find it very beneficial to go back and have a listen to this at a later stage. Also saying, Chris and Kuna, the Challenge All-Stars 4 will have 2-part finale on June the 12th and 19th. I didn't know that, so that is good to know for scheduling purposes. I believe around that time I may actually be in New Zealand as well, so we're gonna have to figure out some scheduling stuff around that, but it's fine. And then AR saying it's not the mainstay, Chris, it's supposed to be old school. Yeah, I totally get it. Like I said, for me it's just I get why they're doing it. I still like the more like out there head-on arenas. Like I like what I like, AR. Like don't hate me for liking more of the head-on bangers, but I get why they're doing it 100%. Lena saying, I think they're trying to take the older cast into consideration 100%. Yeah. I do agree with that.
It's a lot of old knees in that cast.
Yeah. Danica says, I appreciate some of these challenges because if Nelson came back with his prosthetic, he could do many of them. I agree. Like, I think, to be honest with you, I think if Nelson comes back, I wouldn't be shocked to see him in a normal season at some point. Like, I honestly just would not be shocked to see it because he's putting in the work. He's working really hard to get his fitness where it needs to be to get used to using that leg. And then people with prosthetics these days, they can do amazing things. Like they're like obviously not fully like a full-on capable like people who've got all their limbs and that, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him even come back in a normal season. Danica says, Bakuna, the real question is, are you good with maths?
See, I'm in a really fortunate position where when I do good at maths, I go, it's because I'm half Asian. And then when I'm really bad at maths, I go, I'm only half Asian. So I get to go both ways. But I'm pretty good at maths. The only problem I would have is that on the challenge, they never actually do maths correctly. They never do order of operations or PEMDAS or whatever you want to call it. It's always like the wrong maths to get it right, which frustrates the hell out of me because I'd be trying to do the equation properly when they just do it straight through without like working it out, So maths, I think I'm probably pretty good compared to the average person, I would say, but certainly like I'm like Chris with chess. I'm better than like the average person, but nowhere near the best.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm the best either. I'm somewhere in between. Like I know how to play, but it's interesting when you play against, like I said, people that, because the ratings that I'm in now, like I have to work out of it and people are playing so unpredictable. So it's actually harder than playing against someone that plays the actual textbook game, if that makes sense. Because chess is all about pattern recognition, and you can recognize patterns easier when people play the right, most optimal move. Dolores says, I feel Brandon said he wished in hindsight he would have made a deal to stay, send me in, but give me Brad. He felt he could win against Brad. And it's interesting because no one actually wanted to go up against them either to get their stars. And this was such a, I guess, Derek kind of mentioned he may have to go, like at some stage he'll have to go in and get a star or something like that. He was kind of fearful of not being able to get it in the end. I still wonder if All Stars is actually going to follow through with that. For the first time, we're going to see people who don't have a star, who don't have a skull, actually not make a final because they didn't take the plunge, because like I said, to me, it just feels like a fake threat until we see it happened one season, like where someone loses out because they didn't go in and the production didn't give them the opportunity to go in and get a star. So I don't know if that's going to play out. Aya, appreciate you. I really appreciate you. Blood Money saying, how much do you hate Nicole and Laurel's storyline compared to Nanny and Casey's storyline? Way more.
Oh, way worse.
Like Nicole and Laurel's storyline is way worse than Nanny and Casey's. Like at least Nanny and Casey's one,
is sweet.
They're happy. But a lot of people get annoyed. A lot of people get annoyed by it because it sucks some of the entertainment out of the game and they control it with their alliance. I get why, but Nicole and Laurel's is toxic in real life. Like Nani and Casey, even if they sometimes can create boring storylines or outcomes, at least they're happy outside of the game and they're having a happy relationship, which I'm happy for both of them. They found each other, So I don't think it's even close for me. Kiwi saying, I agree, Kerner, the math on the challenge isn't real math. I like math too.
I'd be like Danny McRae. I'd be like stopping producers going, this is incorrect. You've got the maths wrong on this puzzle. Like I'd be calling out production, going, this is wrong. How did that person get through when they clearly got the answer wrong? I don't understand.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously here we do end up getting Brandon take a lead early on, and then Leroy comes back in the end and does take out the W, but it was definitely a close match. 5-4 of the balls goes towards Leroy as he sinks them into those little slots. And then overall, Brandon's going home. And again, like I said here, it hit differently this time with TJ going up saying, you're my man, or, you're my guy. That they've got that real life friendship there. And he was sincere when he said, I hope I see you back. Do you think we get to see Brandon back? We spoke about it a little bit earlier on. For me personally, again, I don't know if he's in the cast for the next season. I feel like he was rumored at one point to be in season 40, right? Do you know the updated if he actually ended up being in season 40 on that cast?
Not sure.
Without placements, if anybody's listening, because we don't know placements. At some point, we have to react to the full cast of season 40. I feel like that's something we have to do at some point, Kuna, just to get it out of the way and say, this is the cast. What do we think about it? But for me personally, Brandon really sits well within the All-Stars theme. Like I don't have a problem seeing him come back for another All-Star season. Okay, well, Thanos she's confirmed.
Brandon is on 40. There you go.
That's it's a theme that makes sense because different eras.
Yeah, generations. He obviously impressed this season as well. Like people were talking before about All-Stars 5 and how annoying it is that there's going to be certain people potentially cast in the season. I think what people really failed to take into account, and this is probably shouldn't be taken into account, it shouldn't play a part, but I think it does, is that if you work with people that you don't like, it's way better to work with people that you enjoy. Like you see the relationship that TJ has with someone like Brandon, and we talk about the Vacation Alliance, all that sort of thing, and we're like TV fans, but I'm wondering how much it plays into casting when production's I just don't want to work with these people for 3 months, in the house with we're gonna have to I imagine people like the Tories and the Fessies and all that, they must have great relations with the production. They get along with them well. They know they can get good TV out of them. They're not gonna do anything wrong, and that's why they get called back, because they're easy to work with. I think people that are assholes so Brandon, I think he's going to be in that position where he's obviously well-liked, easy to get along with. If he can get into that cycle of, if he does a good show on 40, not just performance-wise, but again, how do you get along with not just the cast, but the people that are actually putting the show together? How do you treat the cameraman? How do you treat the producers? All that sort of thing plays a part. It's why Zach is not
100%.
getting a call back anymore, because he was a freaking asshole to people. You know what I mean? That plays a part. Even though we're watching a TV show, there's people that work at this TV show and they don't want to work with people that they don't want to work with. It's a big part of it, So Brandon,
I think that's why Nani.
Yeah.
That's why Nani has come back for many seasons. That's why Casey's coming back. That's why Josh is coming back a lot. A lot of the Vacation Alliance, they know how to work clearly production and get production on their side. And if you can do that, you've got this ability to build a relationship with the decision makers that other reality TV shows don't necessarily give you, similar to back in the day of Bananas. Another great example. That's why they've had so many seasons on the show. So I agree with you wholeheartedly when it comes to that. But that is it here for, I think, this week's coverage of the show. If you did enjoy it, please consider subscribing. Put a like on this video as well. Hit the notification bell. Comment below if you're watching this after the live and let us know what you thought about our thoughts of this latest episode of All Stars. We'll obviously be back next week to talk about the latest episode for All Stars, which would be episode 6 at that time. If you're someone that have not heard enough of me talk here for the last hour and 13 minutes, we are going to do our second live podcast tonight on the second channel that I've created, the Extra Take. It is also featured on the channel as one of my other channels. If you go to YouTube, we'll be talking about how travel changes you. And myself and Will, we've been fortunate enough to do quite a bit of traveling, both of us in our lives. We've both worked in different locations, like you can see there. I've got London in the background. That was the first country I moved to when I moved away from South Africa. And then Will has spent a lot of time in the Middle East and in Dubai. So it should be a very interesting conversation for those that want to go and check it out. We've now got 40 subscribers. When we get to 100 subscribers, Kahuna's promised he's going to come onto the channel as a guest as well. He doesn't want to be seen on this channel until we at least have 100 subscribers. So we're 40% there. Go check it out if you want to support me and listen to some other conversations outside of the reality TV realm. But for now, thank you, everybody. We'll catch you next week and have a great weekend. Bye.